Hey friends, so like I said, we're going to be getting ready to celebrate President's Day this February and every February. So I wanted to talk to you guys about the very first president of the United States, George Washington. He was a president many years ago, a long time ago, more than 200 years ago. When George Washington was president, things were very different in the United States. There were not cars yet. People hadn't learned how to make cars. So if you wanted to go somewhere, you had to ride a horse. There were not lights in houses yet. So if it got dark and you wanted to see, you would have to use a candle. Let's see, what else? There were not stores like Target and Walmart and Market Basket and Stop and Shop. There was only like little stores that people had, or people had to grow some of their own food in their gardens or hunt their own food. In the winter, I'm sure it was very cold, so you had to have a fire in your house because your house wouldn't have heat yet. There was also no cameras back then. People hadn't learned how to make cameras. So every picture we have of George Washington is actually a painting that someone did. So George Washington would have to sit and someone would have to look at him for a while and paint a picture of him because they couldn't just take a picture with a camera yet. There were no telephones back then yet either, or no cell phones. So if you wanted to talk to a friend or your grandma, maybe you would write a letter and mail it. So George Washington, he's the first president. Now remember, our president now, Joe Biden, he's president number 46. George Washington was president number 1. So let's read about him. This is George Washington. He was the first president of the United States. George Washington was born in 1732. So that was 289 years ago. He lived in this house. It is called Mount Vernon. George got married. He married someone named Martha Custis in 1759. They loved each other very much. So George and Martha wouldn't have any pictures from their wedding. They would only have like a painting that someone might do or a drawing. George was a soldier. He fought in many battles. See, there he is on his horse. So he was very brave. A war started between America and England. So there was a little bit of fighting back then. George was the leader of the American army. There he is on a boat. See the flag right here? He's leading all the other soldiers. George was a very good leader. America won the war. There's a really old picture right there, a really old painting or a drawing. Many people liked George Washington. George Washington became the first president of the United States. There he is right here. He has his hand right here. He's a handout. He's taking his oath of office. So this is the exact same thing that Joe Biden just did many years later. That's when you say that you'll be the president and you're going to take care of the people and do your best all the time. So that's what George is doing, and we still do that now. Today, we can see George Washington's face on the dollar bill. So if you have a dollar and you look at it, you're going to see this guy, George Washington. Next time you have a dollar, you'll know who's on it. We will never forget George Washington. That's true. The end. We will never forget George Washington because he was the first president. And I'm just going to show you this out of another book, but if you ever take a trip to Washington, D.C., which is the capital of the United States, you might see a building that looks like this. This thing right here that's sticking out. That's called the Washington Monument. So you can go there and visit it and learn about George Washington. And the reason it's there is because the people who built it want you to think about George Washington whenever you see it. So if you go and visit that it's kind of right there. If you go and visit that tall Washington Monument, make sure you think about George Washington. Awesome job, guys. You've already learned about your first president. That's awesome. A little bit of history today. All right, friends, I'll see you soon. Bye.